1,378 days. What does that number mean, you ask? Well, that was the last time that a Gears of War game released to the world. Gears of War 5. Almost 1,400 days ago. Gears of War used to release in a life cycle of around 2 to 3 years, give or take, very similar to the original Halo trilogy. And then, like modern Halo, just stopped and completely ignored that life cycle. There's a common theme between both of these games, and that's a parent company overseeing everything. Microsoft and Xbox. Look, I'm a huge fan of Gears of War. The original trilogy was probably on par with Halo in terms of my love and nostalgia for the franchise, and some of those death scenes, man, like Dom's wife Maria in Gears of War 2, and Dom himself in Gears of War 3, it hit me mega hard, and even going back and replaying them, I still get the feels to this day. Rightly so with Gears of War 4 and Gears of War 5 taking the franchise in a slightly different direction and not having a Phoenix necessarily as the main character, especially in Gears of War 5, focusing on a new set of characters while still bringing back some of the old ones for that fan service and to give more OG players a reason to relate to it. But it's still got a bit of backlash here and there from the hardcore community in some ways because it did stray so far from the original and kind of took its own way, which isn't a bad thing, and I personally really enjoyed 4 and 5, but let me know your thoughts down below and what you thought of those two. Don't get me wrong, I love Gears of War 4 and I love Gears of War 5, and they both look fantastic in 4K on the Xbox Series X and of course on the PC. But is a story as strong as the original trilogy? It is debatable. But today we're going to be talking about what the hell are Microsoft and Xbox doing with the Gears of War franchise? Why in 1,400 days have we heard nothing about Gears of War 6 or Gears of War the collection, the one with all of the Gears of War games and very similar to the Master Chief collection where you could just jump in and play from Gears of War 1 all the way up until probably Gears of War 5. We haven't heard about it in a long time despite the rumours, so what are they doing with it? And finally, what's the future of the Gears of War franchise? Where could the story go into the next game? And more things along those lines. But ultimately, leave your thoughts and opinions down below. Let me know what you think about Gears of War 6. When do you think it's going to come? The Gears of War collection, when do you think that might drop as well? We're all going to talk about it in this video, but let me know your thoughts down below. But leave a like, subscribe if you guys are brand new here. Let's dive straight in. The Gears of War franchise has been treated about as good as the Halo franchise has in the last decade, with only 2 new games really in that time, Gears of War 4 and Gears of War 5, and nothing else since 2018. Many, including myself, are questioning Microsoft's overall plan and Xbox's. Gears of War back in the day was a system seller, to then go on to having one of the best trilogies on the system, with an interesting and emotional storyline, taking it from that of just killing enemies and going through the army of the Locusts in Gears of War 1, to then having more of an emotional side of things in Gears of War 2 and Gears of War 3. It was a huge step up in storytelling. Everyone loved it. The characters of the story were so likeable, from how fucking badass they all were and sounded, to the smell of testosterone you got when just staring at Marcus Phoenix. Gears of War has always been an Xbox system seller like Halo has, but like Halo, when Bungie left and handed the reins over to 343, the company went in a different direction with the game and the game's story. Epic of course sold the rights to Gears of War for the cash and sold it to Microsoft Game Studios, and now it's owned and published by them. And with this meant many of the original minds behind the original trilogy had left to pursue other projects and stopped working on Gears of War altogether, the main one being of course Cliff Bleszinski. However, it was from that point that it kind of started to go a little bit downhill. Again, very similar to another game that we all know and love. Microsoft are very heavily reliant on contractors to build their games and to help in development stages, outsourcing to different companies to do trailers, gameplay reveals, and things along those lines. This was absolutely paramount for Halo Infinite, because without contractors we probably wouldn't have got the game we got, and even that was a bit of a stretch. A contractor's term is approximately 18 months within Microsoft, and once they leave, they can't return for a minimum of 6 months, which means that that person that knows all about the engine, knows about the direction of the game, and things along those lines, needs to find work elsewhere and probably won't return. Unless, of course, their contract is extended, which, from what I've heard and what I've read, sometimes isn't always the case. I'm not saying that the Gears of War team use solely subcontractors, I'm not saying that at all, although there definitely will be at least a couple in that development team because contractors are very common, right? Especially in the gaming world. But this could be a reason for some of the delays, and you never know. When the game does release, I'm sure we'll hear everything about the development of this game, whether it was hellish or whether it was just something they wanted to take their time with. I mean, we've seen this in the past with Microsoft, right? Hiring freezes, they will let contractors go and lay people off to save money and to cut costs at that fact. And they did it with the entirety of 343's campaign team. It's just the way of the business, unfortunately. But for a 6-year development cycle, I don't know, man. I don't think this game's had a smooth development. I would love to read more and to be proved wrong, and I really hope they are just taking their time with it. But from what we've learned from game development, that's probably not going to be the case. Halo Infinite took like 2 years to build, and it was in development for 6, so bear that in mind. But it isn't just Gears 6, it's also the Master Chief Collection like Gears game, as we mentioned at the beginning, the Gears of War collection, allowing you to play all Gears of War titles on one disc. This has been rumoured for years now, absolute years. I remember all the way back near when the Master Chief Collection was launched around that time, they were saying that there could be a potential for a Gears of War side of things. And to be honest, it'll probably be announced and launched alongside Gears of War 6 whenever that does get released or whenever that does get announced. Knowing Microsoft or Xbox, they'll throw a bundle in there, say you can buy this edition and get both of the games, like they did with Infinite Warfare and Modern Warfare Remastered, you know? But the question that I still want answers to, why is it taking so long? What I really want to understand is what is going on inside the organisation of Xbox right now. Gears of War and Halo are the 2 biggest IPs in the Xbox's franchise history, and yet they're being kicked to the dirt, neglected and ignored. We know what's happened in recent times with Microsoft and their games, first-party games. Redfall being a big one. They just haven't been up to par with it. Whether it's the direction of Microsoft's senior leadership internally, I don't know, but there seems to be this stigma around Microsoft right now where things just aren't being done to a standard, or there is some form of hell behind the scenes really hindering development of these games. I don't know what it is, I don't know why, I can't tell you why because nobody knows, but I would love to understand or have someone do a report on it or an article as to why so many games are going through this bad development, why so many games are coming out like Redfall did. I'm sure it'll come out eventually, but until then we're going to have to wait and see. I mean, the way that I like to look at it is that if Microsoft can let Halo, their most beloved franchise, almost not die but just do so badly and then remove what makes Halo Halo, and that's the development campaign team, especially the likes of Joseph Staten, who'd left 343 and went on to work for now Netflix. If they can do that, they can do anything to any franchise, and I think Gears of War might have been on the side of that as well. Leave both of the franchises as they are right now, leave them in the background just cooking something slowly, let Starfield come out, let that bring Xbox back up slightly, and after that point, that is when the likes of the Gears of War, that is when the likes of Halo are really going to then take effect and just go full force. But from a story perspective, we've got severe blue balls as to where we left off. Let's briefly recap the Gears of War story, shall we? Gears of War 5 was the first game in franchise history to have a main character that wasn't a Phoenix. The main character was of course Kate Diaz, and the story follows Kate as she tries to not only uncover the truth behind the Swarm, but also the truth behind her own lineage, and find out more around herself and her family for her own peace of mind. Since the ending of Gears of War 4, it was revealed that Kate has a grandmother that was the Locust Queen, which as you can imagine was a huge plot twist at the time. And during the campaign, the COG worked to restore the Hammer of Dawn satellites, so they can use the power against the Locust. The final mission of the game involves trying to get the Hammer of Dawn fully online to take down the Leviathan, a massive monster, and in the process, this is where we lose our OG friend, Jack. During the run-up to the end, Kate, Del, and JD run into Kate's mother, Reyna, who was transformed completely into the Swarm Queen, which is where Gears 5 presents another first narrative choice. With Kate vowing to find and destroy her mother, the Swarm Queen, the plot of the next Gears game seems pretty obvious, right? Earlier in the game, Kate and Del learned that the Locusts were created by a team of scientists who were attempting to make controllable super soldiers. This is also the point where Kate learns that not only is she the granddaughter of the original Locust Queen, but she herself has some capabilities in controlling the Horde. Kate chooses to sever the connection to the Horde, destroying the risk of her becoming the Swarm Queen if her mother Reyna dies. Kate being able to reject the gift of being the next Swarm Queen points to the possibility of the next Gears title being the final entry. Whilst the Swarm was able to return without a queen at first, they don't start giving humanity too much trouble until Reyna starts leading them in Gears 5. As the scene explaining the origins of the Locust states, They are not intelligent creatures and need proper leadership to be unstoppable killing machines. While during the events of Gears of War 5, it seems as though Kate was successful in severing the connection, it's possible in the next game that it might come back as she attempts to kill Reyna. While we don't know for sure what's next, we do know that Kate will be at the very centre of the game's plot. Like the first trilogy, this would cap off the second one and potentially be the last game for another 4 or 5 years in the Gears franchise, depending on how they're going to go forward with it. They could be going the live service route like Destiny, where you have new story progressions every other month. Or they could just give you a campaign like Halo and then just leave it. Like Gears of War 5, it went open world and I loved it, allowing you to traverse the world in whatever order you wanted, tackling different objectives. It was great. I really hope they go this route with Gears of War 6 and just make it even bigger, and maybe that's why it's taking so long, because they're going the full open world route rather than going the linear just mission select. Overall though, I love Gears of War so much. I want this game to come to Xbox and I want it to end the trilogy. And I want it to be a good end to the trilogy, right? The first trilogy was just that good. I don't think it's ever going to be topped. But the second trilogy, I don't think it's too bad. And I think this last game could really be one of the best Gears of War games we've ever had if they do go fully open world, if they do take those advancements and those feedback and criticism from Gears 5 and implement it into 6. I'm excited for the future of Gears of War, especially waiting 1400 days for a new game. Probably plus at this point, maybe even going into next year now. I just really hope it's good. What do you think Gears of War 6 will change up, if anything? And when do you think it's coming out? It's a game too big to not announce at an event, so for me it's got to be next year at Summer Games Fest, it'll be at Gamescom or another big event, an exclusive Xbox showcase or something along those lines. That's where this game is going to be announced, and potentially if there's any new hardware coming out, Gears of War 6 might launch next to that because we're not going to get a Halo anytime soon, so Gears of War will be the next biggest thing. But that's going to be it for today's video, everyone. I really hope you have enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts down below as I mentioned. Leave a like rating if you did enjoy. Subscribe if you guys are brand new for loads of content coming. To be fair, we've got loads of story-based content coming on the channel, and I'll do a couple more little videos like this as well around a couple of other games, stuff like that. It is fun, so why not? But we'll see you guys next time.